Hi everyone, it's Nicole. Welcome back to my channel and another paper crafting video tutorial. Today we're going to create a jar shaker card using Mama Elephant stamps and dies. And one of my favorite things to do with a jar stamp and stamp die combo specifically is to create some sort of a shaker. It's just the perfect thing. What we're going to do today is take some previously released products and we're going to pair them with some newer. Now first I do want to create a decorative background. So I have this deckled edge frame. This is a Mama Elephant die cut from the Hero Arts Palm cardstock. Then I have run it through with the delicate pine needles embossing folder from Simon Says Stamp. So already we are mixing and matching some Mama Elephant, some Hero Arts cardstock, some Simon Says Stamp ink Simon Says Stamp embossing folder, to create our background. Now I went ahead and did the blackout technique on the back side of my die there, so the debossed area stays the lovely green color of the palm cardstock, and then I ran it through with a previously released die from Mama Elephant. It's from the stamp die combo, called Jar of Hearts. Yes, that's a Valentine's-y love-themed set, but the jar has nothing on it that specifically says it has to be for Valentine's. So I've die cut that from my panel because we want the front panel of our card to be flush. And then I embellished the background that I did the blackout technique with crushed olive, distress spritz, and some white splatter from Spellbinders. I'm kind of going a little out of my regular order for how I assembled this card today. All along, I knew the images I was going to use, but I saved them until last. Pretty much last, which is not typical of me. I generally do start with my background, but I really skipped ahead. So now we are taking a new sentiment from the Happy Holidays stamp set, and I have stamped that and the ribbon from Jar of Hearts on some craft cardstock. This is Nina Desert Storm cardstock using clear embossing ink and heat embossing with red embossing powder. On the back of our die cut front panel, I'm going to place some double-sided tape and place a piece of acetate that I've trimmed down to fit within the deckled edge. Now this deckled frame is smaller than an A2 front, probably not by much. I would imagine it measures about 4 by 5 1/4, which is going to allow for a nice border when you place it on your card base. Once I have the acetate in place, I'm going to inlay the jar stamp into the die cut area, and using white StazOn ink, we are going to stamp the jar shape right on the StazOn like this. And then I'm going to carefully peel that up. I love having the jar stamped on the acetate. I think it adds a nice element. For the Jar of Hearts, I've also die cut the jar lid from some brushed gold cardstock from Spellbinders, and I'm using white pigment ink or white StazOn ink again to stamp the jar design onto that gold. And I think that elevates the design and makes it much more interesting. Using some foam adhesive squares, we're going to pop this onto the jar lid and place this right over top. And then we're going to take our little ribbon, and I love that it's a paper ribbon. Yes, an awesome little delicate red twine would be perfect here. If you have some lawn fawn twine, that would be fun too. But I love the paper as an easy way where I don't have to try to wrap it around anything or anything like that. It's going to be nice and flat. But the addition of the red embossing does give it a little bit of a raised look, which I love. On the back of Happy Holidays, I've popped this up with foam adhesive and I've tilted it at an angle. Next, we need some greenery on our card. This stamp set from the latest release, the September release, I guess, from Mama Elephant, is one of my favorites. It's very useful. It's the same set that Happy Holidays came from, and it has greenery pieces as well as 3 different sentiments. And I have stamped these with Lawn Fawn Noble Fur cardstock, and we're going to go ahead and die cut these with the coordinating dies. Then along the base of our jar, I'm going to tuck the smaller of the 2 kind of here. I need to be careful, along the right side, and then the longer little leafy vine we're going to place more along the bottom and then slightly tilting up the left side. There are 3 different leaf shapes in this, and I only used 2. Now it is time to stamp our images for our shaker. These cute little elephant images come from the new Elephant Cheer stamp set. We're going to use the elephant in the gift box with the baubles around him, the ornaments. We're going to use the set of 4 ornaments, and then the 3 gift packages with the little mice in it. And we're going to stamp those on some Neenah Desert Storm cardstock and color everything in with Olo markers. I want to keep my color palette pretty traditional. That was really the look I went for this particular card. I've kind of been on a traditional card kick. I'm sure that'll switch over here at some point, as it normally does. And I will move on to some different color combos. But for now, I am embracing the traditional paired with black. I've really been loving the reds and the greens with black for some reason this season so far. I am listing all of the marker colors I am using down in the description below for easy reference. So if at any time you're wondering exactly what colors I used to color in my images, you can find that information there, as well as a link to the Olo marker website. I am using a couple of different green color combinations, which really is 3 markers, but used in 2 different ways. So we're using like the light and medium together and medium and dark together. And it works so good. I love it for being able to get a little bit of variety. As I looked at my card, I really could not come up with a way to incorporate more colors that I enjoyed for this particular design. Don't feel like you have to, use all the colors in your crayon box, I guess, if that is not what works. I often find simplifying is generally a little bit more doable, if that makes sense. We're going to do some warm grays for our elephant. I'm only using about 2 shades per color. So as I was talking about the greens, for the reds, I only used 2 different colors. For the gray, I used 2 colors. Now, one of the things that makes coloring on craft or any colored cardstock challenging is that if you have anything that is white, think the snow on top of that ornament down there by the gift box on the image I'm coloring, or if there's anything else that you want to be white, you're starting on a craft colored base, and that can be a bit of a struggle. I always like to keep a white colored pencil handy. I will link to one in the supplies to help you, so that you can grab one, hopefully, if you don't have one. If you like to do a lot of alcohol ink coloring, no matter what alcohol ink marker you use, and you like to add some softer highlights than you might get with a Jelly Roll pen, or you like to color on craft cardstock like I do, I highly recommend that white pencil, because you will never be disappointed that you have it. Even if you don't do a lot of other colored pencil coloring, that white pencil, it is chef's kiss fantastic. I am going to grab it here, and we're going to color in a couple of the areas in just a little bit, and you'll see what I mean. Now, there is where I started with the lighter green color combo. You'll notice that it's just slightly lighter than the ornament next to it. And I'm going to work slowly so that I don't hopefully end up with two ornaments that is either too much red next to each other, too much green next to each other, etc. And that is because with a limited color palette, the chances of it all blending together are a little bit greater, and I want to make sure that these three packages with the mice are distinctive from each other, that the ornaments are distinctive enough from each other, etc. For the mice, I did go with a light brown color combination instead of a gray. And one of my other favorite things to do to add even more interest is over a light colored image, and in this case the wrapping paper. After I've blended it out, I'll go in with my dark marker and add some stripes so that it looks like a striped wrapping paper. We're going to grab our white pencil now and add that white detail. And you're going to instantly see anywhere that I've added white is going to pop. This white is a great way to instantly add interest. Now there will be a little bit of yellow here on my images. The stars, I've decided to do yellow, and then the string of lights wrapped around the elephant, I opted to do a little yellow here as well. Because I didn't really want to go in with a lot of additional color or maybe have like reds or greens blend into the package and things around it, I decided to just do yellow, and I think that it stands out enough. I made sure it's a very pale yellow, so it almost looks like a little string of, let's say, some warm clear lights. Okay, we are almost done coloring. It looks like we have just a couple more sections. There's that yellow for the lights. Add a little white to this ornament as well. And then we'll do a nice dark green to this package back behind. Next, we're going to take the coordinating dies and die cut all of our images. And we'll take a black jelly roll pen and add detail to the elephant's eyes and the mice's eyes as well. Now, word of caution with a black jelly roll pen, especially if you use the one I use, it often might leave clumps if you haven't used it in a while. I always keep a piece of scrap paper nearby and scribble off the pen first before taking it to my image. That way it doesn't leave clumps. I say always, but let's go with 97% of the time. The other 3%, I make a mistake and don't check and make a mess of my project, which you guys have probably seen once or twice. Next, I'm taking a white jelly roll pen, adding highlights to the bows on the package, adding even more decoration or texture to some of the wrapping paper, like with white dots, highlights here and there, like on the elephant's cheeks, little things like that that help dress up a design. I really like the little highlights on the bow. And then we're going to be ready to pull it all together. Now, my biggest conundrum was, do I want to place my images inside the shaker or not? This is always what I worry and think about when I am designing a shaker card, as I often don't like the shaker material to cover up the image. But in this case, I felt like our images needed to be in the shaker. So what I've done for the background of my shaker design is I inked a little iced spruce on another deckled frame die cut panel, so it's exactly the same size as the front, and this is going to be the background of the shaker. I spritzed the Distress Oxide ink with water from a distress sprayer, and I backed my frame with foam adhesive, and I made sure that my foam really is tight around the jar shape so that my glitter that I'm placing inside the shaker doesn't go everywhere. Using my tweezers, I am going to place my elephant inside the jar. Since I've already placed my panel on the front, I need to be kind of creative with placing my images. I've adhered my elephant and the package with mice with foam adhesive, And then we are going to place some glitter around the background on the background panel instead of placing it in the shaker well. I wasn't really thinking, and I don't want tons and tons of glitter on top of my image. So I think by doing it this way, it's going to allow a little less glitter to be in front of them. The remaining 4 ornaments is going to be popped up with foam and placed on the outside of the jar so that it looks like our little jar and mice are inside, and then the greenery and the little baubles here are on the outside. For my shaker material today, I am using some unicorn glitter from Simon Says Stamp. I love this glitter. It's a great way to add a sparkly, snowy sky, I guess, and it's perfect for this kind of card. So I am carefully placing it around my image, and you can see that I'm kind of tightening it up, and I was generous with the amount of glitter I used. We're going to peel the backing off of our front panel, and then we're going to pop this in place right over our background piece. And lining up that deckled edge, super easy. And then we're going to shake it up. And I find the more you shake it, the better it gets. So I will shake, kind of tap it on my work surface, shake it some more, and look at that. Such a fun little snowy jar scene. Now we want to finish embellishing the front of the card and adding our remaining sentiment. We're going to take these small red gems from Spellbinders and place them along our stem. I am adding the little teeniest tiny ones just to those natural little areas where I feel like they will go. Very simple, and that should do it for the embellishing on the front. And then we've left a little space down below on the front of our card, and this is going to be where we add our remaining sentiment. Now remember, I also said that this deckled frame is smaller than an A2 size card. So I've also I've trimmed a card panel from Desert Storm cardstock. Instead of white, I felt like the Desert Storm would be a much better base to tie into all of the rest of the Desert Storm craft cardstock there, and I do love it. I glued the panel down, and now I am prepping another scrap of craft cardstock with a powder tool, stamping the phrase from the Elephant Cheer stamp set with my embossing ink and heat embossing with red embossing powder. By the way, this is my favorite red embossing powder. It is from Hero Arts. And we are going to take a sentiment label die from Simon Says Stamp and die cut this into a strip that we can then pop up and tuck underneath the jar. This way, our larger sentiment and our sentiment strip kind of bookend the jar, if you will. It gives a nice base for our jar to kind of quote unquote sit on. The delicate pine greenery that's been debossed with the blackout technique in the background lends itself to that wintry feeling, like you have found or tucked this little cute snow globe shaker jar into your greenery on a mantle or shelf, and it is just so cute and fun. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this sweet shaker card featuring Mama Elephant stamps and dies. The supplies I used to create my card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining me today for another paper crafting tutorial. I love being able to share with this incredible community of crafters. I want to give a huge shout out and special thank you to my amazing Patreon members. If you're interested in joining Patreon, please click the link in the description underneath the video here on YouTube. Patreon is a private community where you can support more of what I do. There is exclusive content, information, and behind-the-scenes content. Top-tier members will receive a handmade birthday card during your birthday month, access to D-Stash, and monthly exclusive lives, plus so much more. We would love to have you join our growing community. Please be sure to subscribe to my channel, click that like button, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to always be notified when I have a new video. Thanks for watching!